I'd like to thank you for all the business, all the work you do. I've been down on the border myself. I know some of the challenges that you guys are dealing with the illegal immigrant population, and I think it's very underappreciated. I think, given some of the stories I've heard, while I respect law enforcement in general, there are a few people who have to deal with as much as you folks do. Mr. Albence, in your opening statement, you mentioned violent attacks and threats on ICE offices and personnel and their families. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Certainly. We had an individual, and unfortunately have yet to be caught, that fired a weapon into one of our facilities where we had officers working. We've had protest groups lay our buildings under siege, threatening the individuals that work there, aggressive actions against them, many of whom, we have to remember, many of the people that work for us are not law enforcement officers. We have attorneys, we have mission support specialists, many of whom serve their country and their government 30, 40, 50 years and have done nothing but honorable work that entire time. And I think reckless language used to denigrate them as individuals and the service that they have done only serves to heighten and stir into action some people who might not be of right mind.
How is this committee's insistence on continuing hearings on this issue impacting you?
Well, as I mentioned previously, and as DHS has made clear, this was not anything that was involved. The decision on this process was CIS's. It's a CIS process that they made the decision on. Mr. Cuccinelli himself has already spoken that this is his decision. As you can understand, with an agency 20,000 strong, enforcing more than 400 criminal laws, things that serve as distractions, are very difficult for us to try to keep focus on the very important tasks we have, whether it's regard to getting criminal aliens out of our communities, whether it's regard to the opioid and fentanyl epidemic, or whether it's dealing with child predators and sexual exploitation. And even with all of this, the dedicated men and women of ICE show up every day and do the best they can for this country and uphold the oath that they took.
I'm sure the vast majority of people in this from my district respect what you're trying to do, and I think it's very tragic when other people go after you. I'll give you another question. You've been in the news a lot lately talking about sanctuary cities, the harm they cause American families, both citizens and immigrants. I think the issue would be better explored by the Oversight Committee, by the House Oversight Committee overall. Would you agree?
I would welcome help from anyone in Congress that would like to give it to us.
Can you speak to the harms that sanctuary cities cause to us, cause to American citizens in general?
Certainly, and we had our EAD testify, I believe, in front of Senate Judiciary a few weeks ago. There are, every day, right now, as we speak, convicted criminal aliens that are walking out the front doors of jails because we have jurisdictions that will not cooperate with us. And unfortunately, many of these individuals will go out and commit further crimes. Those are preventable crimes. Those are preventable victims. And unfortunately, we have more jurisdictions that are choosing not to cooperate with us, choosing to put politics over public safety and putting their communities in harm's way, rather than remembering why we're here as law enforcement officers, and that's to keep every community safe and every person within that community.
Yeah, just horrible. I sometimes think of it, it's like my area. Sometimes these people who don't like putting criminals in jail, they don't live where the criminals live. It's all fine and good to send criminals out.
It's hard for me to understand sometimes where you have a jurisdiction which just arrested this exact same individual for a criminal violation, enforcing the laws that they were sworn to uphold, yet when we come to take enforcement action against that exact same individual, sometimes hours later, to enforce the laws that we are sworn to uphold, we were prevented from doing so.
Well, I think my guess is part of the answer. The people who prevent you from doing so live in the nicer parts of the communities where they don't have to worry about the crimes being committed. But at a Senate Judiciary hearing last week, one of our colleagues seemed confused about detainers in sanctuary cities and that ICE was looking for local law enforcement to detain innocent people. Could you set the record straight or maybe kind of educate some of these congressmen on what's going on?
So just like any other law enforcement agency, when we lodge a detainer, we do so based on probable cause. Most of the individuals against whom we lodge detainers are convicted criminals. On the civil immigration enforcement side, 70% of the people that we arrest come out of state jails and prisons. 90% of the people that we arrest, and this has been consistent for the better part of the last decade, are a convicted criminal, have a pending criminal charge, and then two smaller buckets within that, 90% are individuals who have been deported previously and illegally re-entered, which is a federal felony, and one which we prosecute aggressively almost 7,000 times in 2018. And those are immigration fugitives, those who have had their day in immigration court, gone through the entire court process, and now have avoided complying with that order. And we have more than 576,000 immigration fugitives, a number that grows every day.